Hello. In this section, we're going to cover how to install the Stripe Universal Connector for Salesforce, from installing the core connector to installing the different API versions that you can use, to actually configuring how we configure Stripe accounts inside the connector. And also, lastly, we'll show how to configure webhooks. That way we can do the bidirectional updates from Stripe into Salesforce leveraging the connector. Here we've started the installation of the Universal Connector itself. We can leave the defaults for install for admin only, and we'll just go ahead and click install. You'll see that we have to approve third-party access. This is 1 to our PBO and 2 to the area that we process the actual webhooks that are generated from Stripe. So I'll go ahead and click continue. Now that the connector's been installed, let's go ahead and install the latest API version. To do this, we simply open up the connector, and to do that we type in Stripe. And here we can see Stripe Connector for Salesforce. I'll go ahead and click on that. Now that I'm in configuration, I can see it's a simple wizard-based approach, and just click Get Started. Here I can see I have not authorized webhooks, so I'll go ahead and click Authorize to allow webhooks to be fed into my Salesforce org. And I'll go ahead and click Allow. Now that I've authorized the webhooks to be fed into my org, I'll go ahead and click Next. So I'll go ahead and finish that by clicking Log into Stripe. Since I'm already authenticated on the Stripe dashboard, I can see that I'm logged in, and I can see all the different test accounts and demos that I do. So I'll go ahead and select the account that we have set up for this, which is this B2B testing. So I'll go ahead, and since this is a test account, I'll just say skip this form. That's it. My Stripe account has been successfully added, so I'll go ahead and click Next. Next, we get various questions about enabling Stripe Event Data Cleanup and Enable Sync Data Cleanup. These are preferences that you can turn on and off. This will determine how often we do, essentially think of it as garbage collection, or how often we're cleaning tables. By checking these, we'll automatically clean up our event tables, and it's definitely recommended in most environments to go ahead and turn these on. That way we don't have stale events lingering. Here we get to the API installation. This is the version of the API we're going to install. If you click this dropdown, you might see more than one option. You might see 2 or 3, but we're going to basically select the version of the Stripe API that we want to integrate into. You can have more than one installed, and they're denoted by the different names of the classes and invocations that you can make on what version you're working with. For this version, I only have one available, so I'm just going to go ahead and install this 2020 August 27th package. To do this, I just simply click Install Package. And that's going to launch a very familiar install screen that we saw when we installed the base connector. Again, I can just say I want to install for admins only and simply click Install. Now that this install is going, I can let that run in the background, as I don't actually need to let this process finish. I can see that I've added my first account. So during installation, we've installed the core account, we've configured one account for test, and we've also set up and installed the API version that we wanted to use. The last step in configuration is more of actually configuring webhooks and what webhooks we want to listen for. Let's go ahead and add an additional account so we can see how we can support multiple accounts from the Stripe Universal Connector. Let's just go ahead and add another test mode account. I'll say log in with Stripe. Here, I'm presented with the same OAuth flow that I would have, and you have to be logged into the Stripe dashboard for this, or you'd be provided a login screen here. I think for this one, we can go ahead and select Mill and Accounting Test. And we'll just go ahead and say skip this form. There we go. I can see that this account was also added. You can also note on the accounts that they are denoted as test, both here next to the account name, as well as the header when we're looking at the account. That way we know we're working with either a test or a production account. Last thing I'll do is I'll go ahead and flip my dashboard over to the account that we just connected to. And then we'll go to webhooks. We'll see if there's any configured. So we can see we have no webhooks actually set up on this account. However, if we come in here, make sure we're on the Millen account testing, and we'll go ahead and configure a webhook to listen to. In this example, maybe we'll say we want to be notified every time a customer is created, deleted, or updated. That means every time one of these events are fired inside of Stripe, it'll actually trigger an event inside of my Salesforce instance on this Stripe event table. So I'll go ahead and click Save. Now that that's saved, if I go back into Stripe and go ahead and refresh my webhooks, you'll now see that a webhook listener has been automatically configured, and you can see the events being listened for are the ones that we just set up. So the webhook endpoint's automatically created on our behalf. Let's trigger a webhook just to ensure that setup has been finished and the event listener is complete. So I'll go ahead and create a brand new customer, and we'll call it Jane Doe. We'll say it's Jane at example.com. And we'll go ahead and say add customer. Well, we can see that we've successfully added a customer here, and then we'll go back into our Salesforce organization. And what we want to click on next is this tab called Stripe Events. Inside Stripe Events, we should actually see events funnel in, denoted by an event number. And you'll see that they have a JSON body. And here we can see that this was a customer created event and what Stripe account it was on. This lets us know that the actual configuration of the webhook listener and the installation of the package were successful. This concludes the installation of the Salesforce connector and how to configure the high-level steps for listening to webhooks, as well as adding accounts to the connector itself.